Hello, City Council. My name is Scott Kolwitz, and I'm the Planning and Environmental Services Manager with the City of Oxnard. This is a presentation regarding the Portofino Place project that the City Council will be considering on April 19th, 2022. For this project, the City Council is being asked to approve a general plan amendment to change the 2030 general plan land use designation of a 7.61 acre site located along the south side of 5th Street at the intersection of Portofino Place, south of the airport, from Business Research Park to residential medium. The City Council is also being asked to review a zone change to change the zoning of the project site from Business Research Park to multiple family, and a tentative subdivision map for condominium purposes, and to combine 3 existing lots into 2 lots. Approval of these requests would allow for construction of a 92-story condominium dwelling unit with attached 2-car garages, 222 total visitor parking spaces, a common swimming pool and playground, a recreation building, entry gates and perimeter walls, private roads, detention basins, landscaping, and other assorted site improvements. The project includes a general plan amendment, a zone change, a tentative subdivision map, and a housing affordability agreement. These were previously described in the project description. We'll go into more detail as we move through with this presentation. Please note that the Planning Commission previously approved a special use permit to allow the 90-unit condominium project, subject to the City Council approving the requested general plan amendment, zone change, tentative subdivision map. The project area itself is a rectangular 7.61 acre flat, undeveloped site that's bisected by Portofino Place. The project site is surrounded by 5th Street and industrial uses to the north of the project site. The Oxnard Airport is located immediately north of 5th Street and associated industrial uses. Juan Laguna Soria Elementary School is located to the east of the project site, and a recently constructed car wash business is located to the west of the project site. The project site is surrounded immediately to the south by 41 single-family residential subdivision and a 101 multiple family subdivision. For purposes of land use planning purposes, this map shows the existing general plan and zoning in the context of the neighborhoods. As you'll see, the site is zoned BRP and has the general plan land use designation of BRP. In addition to that, industrial, commercial, and residential and school uses surround the site as previously described. In this photo, we identify the site location with the 2 yellow square and rectangle. And we see that this really is the last component of an otherwise developed area. As we place in the proposed site plan to the site, we can see how the project will fit in with the neighborhood and the existing development to the north, south, east, and west. As part of the background for this project, please know that prior to 2004, there was a 17-acre project site which had a 2020 general land use designation of Business Research Park and was also zoned BRP, as these current sites are. But in 2004, the City Council approved a general plan amendment and zone change to designate 7.885 acres of the 17-acre project site as residential. Based on the 2004 project approval, the 2020 general plan land use designation and zoning for the remaining 7.61 acres, the subject of this particular request, those 7.61 acres were to be changed to commercial general and general commercial land use designations and zoning. But the applicant did not proceed with the application, and therefore those sites have remained BRP, Business Research Park. On March 19th, 2019, a pre-application was presented to the City Council requesting that the City Council review and provide preliminary comments on a 90-unit residential project, and the applicant's request to pay the city's affordable housing in lieu fee instead of constructing the affordable housing units on site. The majority of the City Council members generally found that the residential project was acceptable at this location. However, the City Council provided comments that the residential project should include affordable units on site rather than paying a fee. On November 18th, 2021, our Planning Commission voted 6-1 to approve the special use permit associated with this project, which would allow for the development of 90 condominium units and associated site improvements, subject to the City Council approving the requested general plan amendment, zone change, and tentative subdivision map. The Planning Commission also reviewed the environmental documents. The prior 2004 project processed a mitigated negative declaration for the project. And this project included an addendum to that prior environmental document. And the Planning Commission recommended that the City Council adopt an addendum to the previously adopted environmental document to comply with the California Environmental Quality Act. Additionally, on February 10th of 2022, the Oxnard Airport Authority reviewed the project and by a 3-2 vote determined that the project is an acceptable land use and is consistent with the adopted Ventura County Airport Comprehensive Land Use Plan. In addition, on March 4th, 2022, the Airport Land Use Commission reviewed the project and by a unanimous vote determined that the project is consistent with the adopted Ventura County Airport Comprehensive Land Use Plan. The project site is located in the Oxnard Airport sphere of influence, the traffic pattern zone, and the height restricted zone. The project has been designed to be consistent with the Ventura County Airport Comprehensive Land Use Plan. Specifically, the project is consistent with the noise standards as the project is outside the 60 decibel contours. The project is consistent with the safety traffic pattern standards as the project has less than 25% structural coverage. Is both less than 25 feet high, and the project has received the Federal Aviation Administration's determination of no hazard to air navigation. The project also complies with all R2 zoning, land use, and development regulations applicable to the site. The project would be required to implement various mitigation measures that were initially included with the 2004 mitigated negative declaration, and those provide necessary buffers as well as undergoing review by the Federal Aviation Administration. With implementation of the mitigation measures, this project proposed today would not result in new or substantially more severe impacts. As such, no additional mitigation measures would be required for the proposed project. The project has been conditioned to provide navigation easements, to provide noise and air. The city's 2030 general plan is to be amended with this project. The proposed general plan amendment to residential medium and a corresponding zone change to R2 will allow the property to be developed with the proposed 90-unit condominium project, which is an allowable use under the R2 development standards. West 5th Street is located at this location, and it's a designated scenic corridor, which requires that a landscape buffer of CD-9.4 view corridor preservation. This project has been designed with a 30-foot buffer along Fifth Avenue, or Fifth Street, along the entire frontage of this project. If the general plan amendment and the zone change were to be approved by the City Council, we would see this land use configuration on the screen today to be implemented, and future development would need to comply with both the residential medium and the R2 zoning standards. In addition to the general plan amendment and zone change, a tentative subdivision map is proposed. In particular, the tentative subdivision map would subdivide the existing 7.61 project site, which consists of 3 separate parcels today, combine those, and then subdivide the project site into condominium purposes in 2 different lots. On the west side, Lot 1 would be improved with 60 units, a gated entry, a swimming pool and playground area, parking, and associated site improvements. Lot 2 on the east side of the site would be improved with 30 units, a gated entry, a recreational building, parking, and associated site improvements. The subdivision would be governed by a single homeowners association, and residents living on either side of Portofino Place would have access to all of the amenities proposed on either side of Portofino Place. The proposed subdivision has been reviewed for consistency with the Subdivision Map Act and the city's subdivision and zoning regulations. The R2 zoning for the project site and the general plan designation allow 1 unit for every 3,500 square feet, which would allow up to 94 dwelling units on the property, specifically for multifamily dwelling units. However, the project as proposed today only proposes 90 units. Access to the proposed project will be primarily from driveways established from Portofino Place off Fifth Street. 2 additional driveways will be created to Fifth Street, but will be gated and controlled to right turn in and right turn out only, with emergency access also being provided. The proposed 90 dwelling units of the project may generate up to 665 vehicles a day. Of those, 51 would be in the AM peak hour periods, and 62 of those would be in the PM peak hour periods. The addition of these vehicles throughout the day and during the peak periods are not anticipated to exacerbate current conditions at the primary access intersections of Fifth Street and Portofino Place, according to the city's traffic team. Additionally, access to and from the project site will be accommodated through access to the south of the project and distribution of project traffic along Dunkirk to other signalized access points on Patterson Road. It is not anticipated that the additional project traffic added to Portofino Place will require upgrades of the traffic control at the intersection of Fifth Street. Or said it in a different way, our traffic team did not find that a traffic signal was to be warranted at the intersection of Fifth and Portofino Place. Since the adoption of the 2004 Mitigated Negative Declaration, the California Environmental Quality Act statute and guidelines have been revised to require an evaluation of impacts on the local transportation and circulation system on the basis of vehicle miles traveled, or VMT. The commercial development previously reviewed under the original project was estimated to result in a total of 5,172,230 vehicle mile traveled annually. The current project, however, would substantially result in reduced annual VMT of 1,812,497 miles traveled annually. Therefore, the project would result in a net overall decrease in vehicle miles traveled compared to the original project at the project site. This results in a less than significant transportation impact. Therefore, the proposed project would not create a new significant transportation impact related to vehicle miles traveled that is not identified in the 2004 Mitigated Negative Declaration. The 2004 Mitigated Negative Declaration does not include any mitigation measures for potential impacts related to increases in VMT, and no such measures are required for this proposed project. The proposed project is subject to the city's Inclusionary Ordinance, which requires a project with 10 or more residential units to set aside 10% of the units as affordable to low-income households. The project complies with this requirement as it designates 9 units, 10% of the 90 units, to be distributed throughout the project as low-income and affordable units. The project has been conditioned to offer 3 3-bedroom units and 2 2-bedroom units for rent or sale to households with annual incomes at or below 50% of the average median income for Ventura County. Additionally, 2 of the 2-bedroom units and 2 of the 3-bedroom units must be offered for sale or rent to households with annual incomes at or below 80% AMI of Ventura County. Prior to offering the affordable units for rent, the developer and owner must submit to the housing director the proposed rental amounts for the affordable rental units for review and approval. In addition, this current proposal includes an affordable housing agreement. The city's Inclusionary Housing Ordinance has 2 sets of requirements for rental projects, or 2 sets of requirements, one for rental projects and one for sale projects. The project is proposing a tentative subdivision map for purposes of a condominium map where the developer will retain sole ownership of the development, but they intend to offer the units for rent, not for sale. Since the development is seeking a tentative subdivision map for purposes of subdividing the project but not selling them, the existing project is required to provide the number of required units for the for sale development, but the operator intends to operate the project as if it is a for rent development. City staff and the developer negotiated a tentative agreement, which is subject to the city council approval, in order to create a specific mechanism for the developer or successor to comply with the city's Inclusionary Housing Ordinance and this blended approach to subdividing the property with potential to sell them in the future, but to rent them for the near term, a minimum of 20 years. The agreement outlines specific steps to be followed before the developer sells one or more of the parcels of the project to a third party. The agreement intends to protect future tenants and creates an orderly process that ensures that the affordable units are offered to families which the units are intended to shelter, whether those units be rental or for sale units. This project is located within the Seaview Estates neighborhood. The applicant mailed notices of the community workshop meeting to all property owners within the Seaview Estates neighborhood, and the project was presented to the community on April 20th, 2020 at a community workshop. At that time, members of the public raised questions regarding the installation of a traffic signal at the intersection of Portofino Place and 5th Street, airport compatibility, traffic gridlock during school hours, new traffic traveling through Dunkirk Drive, and adequate parking. The majority of the community workshop participants felt the project was adequate at the site, but there were concerns about the potential impact the project might have on existing traffic conditions. Staff received a petition which was critical of the project. Between the time that the city received that petition and when the city brought the project to the Planning Commission, the developer had worked with city staff and revised some elements identified in the petition. In summary, the petition highlighted 4 separate issues. First, that the project for the proposed on the site be a for sale project instead of a rental project. However, the city does not regulate if a project can be a for sale or a rental project. However, we do implement certain standards associated with a for sale or a rental project, and the project is in compliance with those standards. The petition requested that a traffic signal be required at the intersection of Portofino Place and 5th Street. Our traffic division reviewed this and ultimately determined that a signal wasn't warranted and could actually worsen traffic flow along 5th Street. Third, the petition requested that exit gates be provided from the development onto 5th Street, and the developer has made this change. In addition, the petition requested that various gates be removed from the community. However, the gates do remain, and the project site does provide up to 222 parking spaces for visitors within the development. As noted, the project was reviewed by the Planning Commission on November 18th, 2021. 7 members of the public participated in the public hearing and again raised questions regarding the installation of a traffic signal at the intersection of Portofino Place and 5th Street, grading differences between the project and one specific project located adjacent to this project site, solar panel requirements, traffic gridlock during school hours, and had questions about adequate new traffic traveling through Dunkirk Drive, as well as adequate parking being provided on site. The Planning Commission considered these items and ultimately voted 6-1 to approve the special use permit and recommend approval of the project to the City Council. Finally, City staff would also like to point out that the project was reviewed by the Oxnard Airport Authority and the Airport Land Use Commission, and additional opportunities were provided to the public to make comments on the project. No members of the public participated in either the Oxnard Airport Authority or the Airport Land Use Commission meeting relative to this request. The project has undergone environmental review. In 2004, a mitigated negative declaration was prepared, which evaluated the underlying project, which consisted of a commercial development on a 7.6 acre portion of the project site, as well as residential development on another portion of the project site. The initial study and the mitigated negative declaration from the 2004 project determined that the project would not have a significant impact if the mitigation measures described in the mitigated negative declaration were incorporated into the project. For the current project, an environmental consultant under the supervision of Planning Division staff has prepared addendum number 1 to the approved and underlying mitigated negative declaration. And this addendum evaluated the potential impacts of the proposed project. The addendum reviewed the potential impacts to all 16 environmental issues studied in the previously adopted environmental document. And the addendum also compares the environmental effects of the current proposed project to the effects of the project approved in 2004. It was determined that addendum number 1 was the appropriate document pursuant to the CEQA guidelines, since only minor changes and additions to the underlying environmental document were necessary to address the project changes, and no circumstances exist which called for the preparation of an additional CEQA document. The addendum concludes that the proposed project would not create any new significant impacts or increase the severity of impacts beyond those identified in the previously adopted mitigated negative declaration. Consistent with state law, addendum number 1 does not require additional public circulation because it does not provide significant new information that changes the final mitigated negative declaration approved in 2004 in a way that deprives the public of a meaningful opportunity to comment upon a substantial adverse environmental effect of the project or a feasible way to mitigate or avoid such an effect. All mitigation measures which were previously included in the underlying environmental document have been included as conditions of approval in the proposed resolutions. In particular, staff highlights that the approval documents include mitigation measures regarding air quality, cultural resource and tribal cultural resources, geology and soils, land use planning, and noise. These items must be implemented as part of project construction and/or operations. So in conclusion, city staff is recommending approval of the project. And specifically, staff is recommending that the city council adopt a resolution adopting addendum number 1 to the previously adopted mitigated negative declaration. And we recommend the city council adopt a resolution approving planning and zoning permit number 20-620-02 for a general plan amendment to change the land use designation of the project site from business research park to residential medium. And we recommend that the city council introduce an ordinance by title only, waiving further reading, to approve planning and zoning permit number 20-570-02 for a zone change to change the zoning of the project site from business research park to multiple family R2 and set the date of the second reading to occur on May 3rd, 2022. And that the city council adopt a resolution approving planning and zoning permit number 20-300-02 for tentative subdivision map for tract number 6064, subject to certain findings and conditions. And finally, we recommend that the city council approve an affordable housing agreement. That concludes staff's presentation. We look forward to answering any questions that you may have at the city council meeting. Thank you so much. We'll see you then.